Hey everyone, I'm Nido King. Welcome back to Folklore. Last time we finished the last of Ellen's quests in the entire game, so it's time to switch to Keats, who's being surprisingly not misogynistic this time. I don't know, you try to hate a guy and then he suddenly surprises you. So, as was the case for Ellen, there's one more in-game folk to get, and so there's one more quest that we didn't have to pay for. So if I'm going to be dealing with Bougainvillea, of course, I want to see what karmas I need to build up first. Need to defeat some Bougainvillea with Protea, that's what I'm probably going to do this quest. And a bunch of other stuff. Most of it I don't need to worry about this time around, I don't think. And we're going to need some ice element attacks. So Protea, of course, if I'm going to be building it up. And I need some targeted attacks. You know, the ones that aren't going to cover too big an area and accidentally hurt the Telenthera. Of course, silly me, why would I assume that they're going to show up in the first room? I don't know. I've never found the Telenthera to be nearly as threatening as Bougainvillea. But of course, we're not fighting the targets just yet. I needed to capture some more amobium. In fact, 2 of them, and that's how many there are in the room. I don't know why I thought I could dodge through that. I should probably be paying more attention to the Gladiolus at this point, but really I want to make sure to take these folks down in the right order. Because I've got karmas I need to build up with pretty much all of them. And now I need to defeat some folks with amobium. Gladiolus is one folk I could defeat. But of course, it only answers to the destroy element. Seems like Broombear is just barely too expensive for me to get in 3 shots. It does at least allow me to keep at a distance, so I'm not the target of most of Gladiolus's attacks. Besides which, I just don't use Broombear all that much. And I think I needed to capture another gladiolus somewhere along the way. This is where the bougainvillea normally show up, but now it's 3 gladiolus. And nothing else, fortunately. But even just 3 gladiolus can be quite a threat. They've got attacks that cover a lot of area, and if they can all act independently, I might not be left with any place to stand. Fortunately, a lot of the time they seem content to just go their separate ways, like resetting to where they began and waiting for me to approach them. Of course, I don't want to be in the middle of trying to capture one when another one just suddenly decides to take an interest in me. So it's time to start getting those kills for Amoebium. And I don't remember whether I mentioned this, because it's been a long time since I played as Keats. And I probably didn't use Amoebium all that much when I did. But Amoebium is really good. It's kind of expensive. It takes up about 1/5 of your total MC meter. But it'll knock down almost anything. I'm actually kinda considering doing a montage for the final bonus video of just knocking down as many folks as possible with Amoebium. But for now, we're down to 1 gladiolus, and I can safely capture it. I said safely, not skillfully. And the crystals, not quite as interesting as I think they are in the normal playthrough. I believe this time they are all just going to be life drops. Which could be useful if you needed a refill after fighting the gladiolus, but I'm not sure that I need quite this much of a refill. Anyway, I don't even know whether you need to come into this room or not, although it wouldn't surprise me if you do. Because now we get to fight 3 Agapanthus on the way out. And I need to absorb 3 more of their ids, but that's not going to happen with so many of them in the room. I think they're one of the most loved folks of the DLC, though. I really haven't used Tathlum, like, at all. Which is kind of sad, because it is a really good folk. Especially in situations like this. But you underestimate Agapanthus' reach at your peril. And now we're down to just the last one. He's not going to put up too much of a fight from here. There are almost no instances where this is actually a good or fun mechanic. And I think we've seen at least one point where it's a very annoying mechanic. But oh well, that's the game we've got. And now we've got only 2 gladiolus, but in a much smaller space. I think I really lucked out there dropping the shield as early as I did, but for some reason it didn't use a laser long enough to hit me. And we'll take one down with Amoebium and capture the other. I don't know how that one missed me. Well, I tried. And we get a refill before moving into the second half of the quest. Nothing really special or out of the ordinary here, I don't think. Again, we're just fighting slightly more difficult collections of folks than the ones that we fought while we were normally going through the chapter. Got a couple of Proto coming up in the background. And I remember that we need to kill those with Durandal. And here again, I fail to notice that my fire attack is damaging the Agapanthus because its armor is off. It seems so obvious when you know, but I just never noticed that before until I started watching the videos for commentary. And the Proto is actually probably already showing its red id, but I have to wait until it gets up before I can see it. So when I attacked it that frequently, I just never saw the red id. It's one of the most annoying things about both Proto and Protea. You really have to give them a chance to get up in order to capture them. Whereas if you haven't hurt them enough and their red id isn't out, you're just giving them another chance to start moving and not taking them down quickly enough. So let's actually start working on this karma here. That's not the realm that Durandal is from. I've got so many rows now, I start to get confused. And of course, the further you get in the game, the more rows of folks you unlock, the harder it is to find the one you're looking for. I suppose at some point I really should just start organizing them by type instead of by realm. But we'll hit this guy with as much Durandal as we can, because now we actually do want to destroy it. And there's one more still. And an Amaryllis flying overhead. One of the best strategies for fighting Amaryllis is to use Agapanthus, because you can create a tall pillar of fire right under it. You've also got to be careful not to damage it too much, or else you're going to miss the red id. I want to capture it, of course. Even if you're doing it well, it does take quite a while. And a good health fill up before the final room. What are the bets this is going to be something other than health? Nope, it's health. So we'll move on to the final room before the mini-boss, anyway. And here's where the Bougainvillea and Telenthera are. Granted, they made the quest sound really difficult when they were telling us what to do. You've got to be very careful not to hit the Telenthera while you're fighting the Bougainvillea. But there's only one Telenthera in the room. And the Telenthera actually kind of like to stay away from you. So fighting the Bougainvillea under these constraints, not particularly difficult. Especially the one that's up here on the hill. Tellanthera's not even going to be able to get close. I mean, I guess it could teleport in, but it never seems to do that. And it was just that easy. Yeah, I'm glad they put us in that scene for that one line. Yes, I would much rather have a folk, thank you. And we have a Lonodite, which is fairly useful. I think it's a little weak to be very good, but it gets the job done. It's a slash element attack that operates at a distance. It's basically Fraxinus, but for Keats. And since that was a pretty short quest, let's just go ahead and do another one right now, shall we? After all, we've got a whole bunch of DLC quests to get through. 5 of them, starting with Alchemy Assistant. Let's see what this quest entails before we go smashing stones, shall we? Not that the route is particularly interesting, and all that surveying really does is lets us see the most basic folks we're going to be fighting along the way. So here in the first room we have a single Kalmia, and that's it. May not sound threatening, but just wait. And here in the Mandragora room, we've got a Padfoot. Nothing but a Padfoot. But this is where the quest becomes interesting. So the name of the game here is figuring out which effects you want to have for each of your 2 trips. So basically, the yellow stones will make different types of folks appear, and the white stones will multiply the number of folks of each type. So there are multiple different strategies that you can use here. What I'm going to do is break all of the red crystals and all of the white crystals. So I'll be fighting the maximum number of a single type of folk, and we've already seen what those types are going to be in each room. And those folks will have the maximum amount of HP. So for the second run, I'll have all the yellow crystals and all of the blue crystals, which means I'll be fighting one of each type of folk with high attack power, but the normal amount of HP. You can also take about half of each type of crystal in each run. Or you could do something like take all of the red and blue crystals for your first trip and fight a single super powered folk, and then all the yellow and white ones for the second trip and just fight a whole bunch of common folks. It's really up to you. There's any number of ways you can handle this. But you don't actually have to fight any of the folks except in this final room. You have to defeat everything in this room in order to open the way forward. So, of course, we have to fight Kalmias, which are normally really annoying, but now they've got, I don't know what it is, 6 times the HP? And for some reason I thought I had Kraken equipped. That's not Kraken. I know the ice trick, though. And the only downside is that if I manage to do enough damage to one to get its red id to pop out, I do have to wait until it unfreezes to see it. So instead, I'll freeze them all close to the ground and then attack them with something heavy like Langalan. And one of them's already dead, so it's really just a matter of blasting out the other ones. And that's the first trip. And of course, on the second trip, you have to break all the remaining stones. If you don't, then there's no point doing this quest to begin with. I do want to see what's along the other path, though, since I know that the yellow crystals will bring in folks from surrounding areas, is what the fairy said. It doesn't actually mean the adjacent rooms. And I can quite safely ignore the bugaboo. I don't think it even woke up. Yeah, I don't even know what the other folks are that you'll fight if you go into that room. I plan to avoid it. So things are a bit dangerous, because now we've got 4 blue crystals to crack. And that's going to boost the attack of the folks that we're going to fight by a whole lot. But fortunately, they're no more difficult to capture than they ever were. And I haven't had problems with most of the folks we've fought up until now. Again, Kalmia is a bit of a problem, but if it's just one Kalmia and a couple of other folks, it shouldn't be too hard to beat it without getting hit. In addition to the Padfoot, we've got an Anun and an Auguski. And I can fight all of these guys pretty effectively just by staying at a distance. But you might notice how much my HP went down just with one hit from the Auguski. This is not a quest that's kidding around. As it happens, Bullseye is not going to be very effective when the land is sloping downward. I really hate to abuse Longalon, but it is the most effective way to get through this quest. I don't think that fighting one super-powered Padfoot would be too difficult. But on the other hand, I didn't particularly want to try. Now, we only have to deal with a Pori and a Trent in addition to the Kalmia. Again, staying at a distance is going to be the best strategy, and fortunately these are all simple captures. I'd hate to think what would have happened if I'd gone into the other room with the Bugaboo, although Bugaboos aren't too hard to just kill outright, usually. So once again, I just have to deal with the Kalmia, and a single MC meter's worth of Kraken should be plenty to finish it off. Don't need to capture any. Let's go ahead and score a kill with a Lonadite. It's got quite a good range. Like I said, I just think it's a little bit weak to be nearly as effective as Fraxinus is for Ellen. But it's a slash element attack, and Keats doesn't have a whole lot of options for that are any good. So I'm happy with it. And I hope that this rebel denizen will be happy with the rest of the memory stones that we brought him. I think that's his line. So there you have it. The last of the DLC folks is ours. So let's take a look at our new folk really quickly before we end the video. Scarab is another slash attack. It's not all that great at the moment, but I've got some upgrade items I can use, boosting its effect area, and making it cheaper. Then we gotta kill a bunch of folks in order to finish building it up. It's pretty interesting though, and we'll see it next time.